What's the worst thing you did when you were 16?
Snuck out past curfew.
Failed a test. Maybe got caught with beer at a party. Now imagine being Detective Frank Morrison. 22 years with them. This is the story of how a routine missing persons case in suburban Wisconsin unraveled into one of the most disturbing investigations in Midwest crime history.
By the end of this, you'll question Eve.
Picture perfect suburb. The kind of place where people leave their doors unlocked and kids ride bikes until the streetlights come on. Median household income over 90 grand. Great schools. Low crime. His Honda Accord was found 3 days later in the parking lot of a Planet Fitness. He didn't have a membership too. Keys still in the ignition. Wallet on the passenger seat with $400 CA.
They always think their spouse could never, until they absolutely could. Second disappearance, October 11th.
Sarah Dominguez, 38. Real estate agent. Divorced, no kids.
Last seen showing a house on Wu.
2 disappearances in 8 days. Both middle-aged professionals. Both cars abandoned with personal belongings inside.
Detective Frank Morrison caught both cases.
And Morrison, he's old school, starty.
Thomas Brennan, 51. High school chemistry teacher at Brookfield East High School.
Left school at 3:30 p.m. after tutoring students.
Security cameras showed him getting into his Subaru, driving out of Tiege.
They pulled security footage from every business within 5 miles of each disappearance point, cross-referenced credit card transactions, phone records, social media,
looking for any connection Betway.
But Thomas Brennan, the chemistry teacher,
that's where they caught a thread.
Morrison interviewed students at Brookfield East.
Standard procedure. Did anyone notice anything unusual about Mr. Brennan?
Even though she wasn't in his class, Morrison's instinct started tingling.
You remember her name? Yeah, everybody knows her.
Emma Hartley. She's like crazy smart, taking all AP classes as a soph. David was a pediatric surgeon. Jennifer was a nonprofit director. They lived in an $800,000 house in the nicest part of Brookfield, the kind of place with a 3-car garage and a pool in the back. More. But there was a note in Brennan's file from the school counselor dated March 2021. Discussed concerns about student fixation. Age.
Repeatedly emails after hours. Requests one-on-one tutoring despite.
He spotted Emma in the parking lot getting into a silver Toyota that school records said belonged to her mother. And here's the first twist. Emma wasn't alone.
There was someone in the trunk.
Marizo. He radioed for backup, called out to Emma. Police. Step out of the vehicle. Emma froze, looked in her rearview mirror, made direct eye contact with Morrison.
And you want to know what she did?
She asked. Morrison was right behind her. Sirens blaring. Backup units converging from 3 directions. The chase lasted 8 minutes. Emma made a mistake, took a turn too fast on Pilgrim Road, clipped a curb.
Morrison approached the Toyota carefully, gun trained on Emma the whole time.
Officer Rebecca Santos covered him as he reached the trunk, popped it open. Inside, Thomas Brennan, the missing chemistry, and Morrison. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. A 16-year-old girl, 5'4", maybe 110 pounds, had kidnapped a grown man and kept him prisoner.
But it gets so much WORs.
Standard procedure. That's what any good lawyer would advise. Emma ignored him completely.
I wanted to talk, she told Morrison through the two-way glass. I want to explain. Moss tried to intervene. And this is where the case went from kidnapping to something infinitely darker.
Mr. Brennan's in the trunk because I wasn't ready yet, Emma said, calm as discussing homework.
I needed more time to. The interrogation room went silent.
Moss, the attorney, looked like he'd been punched.
Morrison, 22 years of homicides and gang violence, had to steady himself against the table.
How does a 16-year-old honor student become a serial killer? Emma's explanation lasted 2 hours.
Morrison recorded every word.
And I'm going to tell you what she said, but I want you to remember. Freshman year at Brookfield East, she was always smart, always top of her class, but socially awkward.
No friends, spent lunches in the library, that kind of kid.
And she developed an obsessive crush. Usually it manifests as excessive emails, finding excuses to stay after class, maybe some inappropriate comments that make the teacher uncomfortable. The school counselor had already flagged this, IEM. He was nice because that's his job. Teachers are supposed to be nice, but when I really needed someone, he rejected me, just like everyone else. Morris asked what she meant by really needed Somia. Now, this is where we need to be very careful. These are serious allegations that were never proven in court.
David Hartley denied everything. There was an investigation, but prosecutors ultimately did. According to Emma, she'd tried to tell Mr. Brennan about the abuse. That's why she was always staying after class, sending emails, trying to get him alone.
She was working up the courage to tell him W. Emma claimed that rejection, combined with ongoing abuse at home, caused something to snap. Over the summer of 2021, between sophomore and junior year, she started planning.
I realized that people, but here's where Emma's story takes a turn that investigators still debate, because Emma didn't go after her father.
And she didn't go after Brennan. Not at first. She went after strangers. Marcus C. Marcus, being a good person, got out of his car to help this crying teenage girl. Emma tased him.
She bought a taser online using a fake ID, something she'd researched extensively.
Marcus went down.
She'd researched chemical compounds in her father's home office, medical journals about lethal substances, mixed a cocktail of sedatives that would stop his heart, made it look like natural causes INI.
They didn't hurt you. Emma's answer is the most chilling part of this entire case. Practice, she said simply. I needed to practice before I did the ones that mattered, the interrogation room received.
When Morrison came back, he asked Emma who the real targets were.
She smiled again. My father and Mr. Brennan. I was going to make it look like my father killed Mr. Brennan, then committed suicide. Oh.
She'd been holding Brennan in her family's storage unit. Yes, her parents had a storage unit they never used, giving him just enough food and water to keep him alive.
She was going to kill Brennan USI. She deserves whatever happens. Morrison asked Emma to take them to the bodies. She agreed, seemed almost eager. On October 21st, with a full forensic team and district attorney present, Emma directed. Marcus Chen and Sarah Dominguez, buried 6 feet down, both showing signs of chemical poisoning consistent with Emma's description.
The case was airtight. They had Emma's confession. The bodies, FICE. Wisconsin law allows juveniles as young as 10 to be tried as adults for serious crimes, but it requires a waiver hearing where a judge decides if the juvenile system can handle the case or if it need. One expert claimed Emma had essentially created an alternate personality to cope with what her father had done, and it was that personality that committed the murders.
The prosecution, led by district.
The abuse allegations against David Hartley complicated everything.
The defense wanted it admitted as evidence to explain Emma's mental state. The prosecution wanted it excluded because it was never. Emma's school photo, smiling in a debate team uniform, became one of those images that gets burned into public consciousness.
And public opinion.
Completely split. Half the people said she was a monster. The crimes were too serious, too calculated, and the juvenile system maxed out at age 25, which Torres felt wasn't sufficient for someone who'd killed multiple people in cold blood. The trial started.
Risky move, but Moss felt it was their only shot, and Emma testified for 3 days about the abuse. Detailed, graphic descriptions that made the jury visibly uncomfortable. She cried, something she ate.
But you did research how to buy an illegal taser. You did plan to murders in elaborate detail. You did execute those plans perfectly.
So you were capable of complex planning and action, but somehow.
She'd been silent throughout the investigation, standing by her husband, maintaining their daughter was mentally ill. I need to tell you something, Jennifer said quietly.
Can we go somewhere private?
Our life, our reputation, the money. I am a coward.
And my daughter became a killer because I was a coward. Morrison immediately contacted the DA's office. They reopened the investigation into David H.
A neighbor remembered Emma's personality changing dramatically around age 12, becoming withdrawn and anxious. A pediatric nurse who'd worked with David Hartley filed a complaint years earlier about.
David Hartley resigned from his hospital position to focus on family during this difficult time. Translation: they were going to fire him and let him quit instead. But here's the thing that haunted. Marcus had 2 kids who grew up without a father. Sarah had a mother who died of grief 6 months after we found her daughter's body. Emma didn't just kill her victims.
She destroyed entire family. Sentencing hearing in September 2022.
Wisconsin doesn't have the death penalty, so Emma faced life in prison.
Judge Torres could have shown mercy, given her age and the abuse allegations. Instead, you calculated how to end lives like you were solving a math problem. And given the opportunity, I believe you would do it again. Emma showed no emotion.
Was led out of the courtroom in handshakes. Developed severe PTSD, panic attacks, couldn't be in enclosed spaces. He gave one interview to local news in 2023. Said he still has nightmares about that trunk about thinking he was going to die.
P.
His medical license. His marriage. Jennifer divorced him and gave testimony that strongly implied he was guilty. His reputation.
Last anyone knows, he moved to Florida, lives alone, works as a medical.
Others think it's guilt-driven performance.
The families of Marcus Chern and Sarah Dominguez filed a civil lawsuit against the Hartley family and Brookfield School District, arguing both entities fail. Tutors other inmates, works in the prison library, stays out of trouble.
Guards say she's polite, quiet, reads constantly. But there's a fifth and final twist that came out just last year.
November 20th.
In this interview, Emma claimed the abuse allegations against her father were fabricated.
I made it up, she said calmly. I was angry at my father for being emotionally distant, for caring more abroad. I'm never getting out.
And I'm tired of the narrative that I'm some damaged victim. I killed those people because I wanted to.
Because I was curious what it would feel like. Because I could, this year. And honestly, neither do I.
Because that's the most terrifying part of this whole case. We'll never know the full truth. Did a 16-year-old girl kill people because she was abused and broken? Or did she kill people because something in her was fundamentally wrong from the start? And she's manipulative enough to clear.
But Emma,
I looked into her eyes dozens of times.
And I still don't know what she really is. So let's talk about what went wrong, because there are lessons buried in this nightmare.
First, the school.
We ask teachers to be social workers, psychologists, and parent figures, but we don't give them the resources or training to handle complex situations. Second, the juvenile warning signs. Emma was ISO. Third, the prosecution of juveniles as adults. This is controversial, but I'll say it. The brain doesn't fully develop until age 25. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for impulse control and understar. Fourth, and this is the big one, our society's obsession with true crime might be creating monsters.
Emma had researched serial killers extensively, knew forensic science from TV shows and podcasts.
S.
Some districts implemented mandatory check-ins for students flagged with concerning behavior.
Small steps, but something.
Here's what keeps me up at night. How many Emma Hartleys are sitting in class? How many of them have also considered homicide?
We don't talk about that.
We don't have screening tools for it. We wait until a kid brings a gun to school or a detective finds bodies in a construction. There are currently about 2,500 juveniles serving life sentences in the United States, most for murders committed in their teens.
Some of them are genuinely dangerous, unredeemable. Others might be reading books, tutoring inmates, living a quiet life behind bars. And sometimes she gives interviews where she says different things about why she killed, who she really is.
Is she a victim? A villain?
What I do know, Marcus Chern's kids are now 14 and 16. Same age Emma was when she killed their father.
Sarah Dominguez's mother died never getting justice that felt meaningful. Thomas Brennan still can.
Layer after layer of tragedy, ruined lives, and questions we can't answer.
So next time you see a quiet kid sitting alone at lunch, maybe check in on them.
Not because they might be a killer, but BECA. And I realized I don't understand anything at all. Sleep tight. And maybe keep an eye on those honor students. The perfect ones.
Because sometimes perfection is just a mask for something we're not.